Hey everyone, Ryan Starblook here, of course. For the third week of NaNoWriMo, we can see the light at the end of the tunnel. Some people are going to cry off, really discouraged, and some people are going to push through it to the end, win or lose. I'm safe, as we speak. The last few days I've been over par. That being said, I'm aiming for 60,000 words written as opposed to the 90,000 I deluded myself into thinking I could do. And I could have, but I got discouraged. No need to go into detail, but yeah, I'm sure you know what I'm talking about. For all you discouraged people, I hope this video lends a hand. It's such a challenging task to write this much in such a short span of time. But people do it. Not only that, some people do it all year. But I digress. My only writing advice. So this is a rough draft of an idea, the only real original piece of writing advice that I can give. And I think I like to know what I'm talking about. A lot of people never get around to writing their stories, and that makes me sad. And I think of all the amazing things I'll never read. Everyone's got writing advice up the yin-yang. Famous authors and soothsayers have written books on the subject. It's all subjective, of course. And well, I've never really had anything unique or helpful to say. Until now, hopefully. First off, I'm no authority, and probably a little bit full of shit. But hear me out anyway if you've ever wanted to write a story but couldn't. Before I get into this, I want to make a pretty standard distinction that can split any two writers down the lines. You either outline your stories and know what's going to happen beforehand, or you have a vague idea that comes out with great spontaneity. The former is known as a plotter, the latter a pantser. One could try either way, and any seasoned author has. Let's just say for me, I like plotting, and I think developing good plotting skills and outlining your stories beforehand to a T makes the whole process an awful lot easier. But either way, this advice ought to hold true for whatever, folks. Step 1. That's the intent to write. To back this intention up, you have to eliminate any and all distractions. That means no internet, no people, no external stimulus aside from the blank right screen ready for your words. The screen is ready for you. Are you ready for it? Not necessarily. Step 2. Open the arc. See, even if you're mentally, physically, and spiritually prepared to write, if you don't have any ideas, then you're only halfway there. Let me tell you, step 1 is the most difficult. But once you've figured out how to get past it, and I'll try to show you how, even though this is step 2, technically. See, I assume you're trying to tell a story. To say something. If you don't know what that is, try to figure it out before you write each session. Have an abstract goal in mind, whether it be a scene, a message, a chapter, maybe it's a character profile, or some part of an outline. But when you're telling a story, there are segments that begin and end, most commonly in the form of chapters. Step 2 is figuring out how to open an arc. And so for however long it takes you to write, this arc thingy, see here, it's open. And it's just left dangling out here until you resolve whatever needs to be resolved for it to close, which is step 3. Close the arc. This is the last step for the purposes of my advice as it stands. Finishing what you started. Completion. Some people like to do step 2 and leave it open at an interesting part and stop writing for the day, so that when they return, they're already interested and able to just simply get started. But to close an arc is good, but understand it's all a cycle. Until your project is completed, negating editing, you're constantly opening new arcs and closing them up again. But I think if you're able to see it in segmented terms of opening and closing a series of things, it becomes clear that writing is cumulative. Motivation dies quickly, and discouragement lingers on, but try to keep in mind that each of these arcs are tiny points to the whole story, and once you form the pattern of opening and closing, in addition to identifying what you want to do for sure, that pattern becomes easily repeatable. You have no idea what you're capable of. In instances of writing stories, it's crazy how often I write stuff that I wasn't expecting or I was really proud of, even though I necessarily didn't feel like writing that day. Anyway, I know this concept is very vague and abstract, but I hope it serves you well as we charge into the final weeks of NaNoWriMo 2015, and onwards. And there's one more thing I wanted to share with you guys, and that's basically how I pull NaNoWriMo off, or most other writing projects I do. So in this instance, I have a poster board here that is basically the outline from A to Z of chronological events of what happens, and it came out to about 3 poster boards long, and the back side there's some character profiles, setting information, main themes. This is all stuff I already written down on my computer, but this way, when I write it out again, I don't have to have 2 windows up, and I could just hang this up somewhere and look at it instead of having to go back and forth, and I could just keep that full screen writing up on Scrivener. Now I have a timer here that I will set for 30 minutes, 45 minutes until I've written a chapter, and then take a little break. Obviously, the Sharpies I use to write these out, and so what the notebook is for is it's just quiet little reflections at the end of my writing session where I can kind of talk about what I did and what I didn't do and what might be missing from that scene or what I really liked and what I want to expand on. Just reflections on the first draft. So when I go back and do the second draft, it's a whole lot easier. And after I've done 2 or 3 drafts on the computer, I put it on the Kindle and just read the story like it was a novel and try to find any other errors that I've made. Now, this thing right here is really awesome because it's a flash drive, but it's also a microphone. Seriously. You press record on this, and the thing comes on, and it's really great because whenever I have any ideas, I don't have to write them down anymore. I keep this around my neck, and whenever I need to, I just, note to self or whatever for a story. Because I was starting to lose way too many ideas for my stories, and then I would wake up in the middle of the night, I would have an idea, I wouldn't write it down, and then I wouldn't remember it. But this way, a lot more ideas are getting through because I leave it by my bed, it's on me all day. This is a really foolproof way of optimizing your idea influx. You just put it in the computer and upload all the sound recordings, and I put them in the relevant categories depending on what project it is. The poster boards I did about a week before NaNoWriMo. So I had the story entirely outlined, but a lot of the characters were very vague, and I developed that as I went on. But I hope you like this little look at how I pulled NaNoWriMo off this year, at least. I hope everyone's doing good on their projects. Alright guys, this is Ryan Starblook, and you better have a good day.